Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to be doing this Hangout on Air. My name is Brooke Marchewka, and I'm an Innovation Fellow in the Office of Innovation at Peace Corps in Washington, D.C.
Bien, mi nombre es Chepe, yo soy facilitador de idioma y cultura.
Hi, I'm Nicole Otis. I am a Peace Corps volunteer leader for the Healthy Schools Project in Guatemala.
Hi everyone, my name is Mayana, and I'm also a Peace Corps volunteer leader for the Healthy Schools Project in Guatemala.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Beal. I'm the training manager here in Peace Corps in Guatemala.
Great. Thank you guys for those introductions, and we're really happy to have you joining us as well from Guatemala. So we'll kick off this Hangout with a quick overview about Duolingo, as that is, the language learning program that you guys are working on right now. And you're in week 4, you're doing great. So I just wanted to first address why we're doing this and why it's important. So Duolingo, as you know, is a really handy app. Like, you can access it not only online, but on your phone. So the idea is that it's a really handy, convenient way for you guys to practice little bits of Spanish throughout your day in a very accessible way. So hopefully you've already been benefiting just from the app interface and the ability to access that. But even more important than that is we're able to very easily track your progress and see how you guys are doing through our Duolingo dashboard. And the reason that's so helpful is because it gives us a really easy way to report how you guys are doing back to you. So you can see not only how you're doing individually, but how you're comparing to your peers. So hopefully that's helpful to you and is a little bit of motivation for you. And right now I actually am going to share my screen to give you guys basically a view of the dashboard. So here it is. This is your Peace Corps Guatemala Duolingo dashboard. Everyone's listed here. And we can really see a pretty good level of detail here. Like, this is all time. We can see your XP. We can see your progress through the course, how many lessons you've completed, how many days you've been active. And then we can also sort by date. So we could look into, okay, right now, this is a snapshot of how many XP you guys have earned. And I just also wanted to point out, I mean, you guys are unique in the sense that a lot of you are coming in with more advanced Spanish skills, which is awesome. I can see here that some people have already completed the Spanish course, and I anticipate that, those of you that are close to completing it will get there very soon. So I just wanted to throw out a few options right now as to things that you can do after you finish the course. So one thing is there's also the English for Spanish speakers Duolingo course, which is kind of like a cool reverse on what you're already doing right now. And that's just a great way to reinforce what you've already learned and what you already know. So I'd recommend trying that course. You can always go back after you've completed a skill. You can always go back and practice that skill again. You can also practice your weak skills. That's an option. And then the final thing is Duolingo has this thing called immersion. And some of you have already been using it, but what it is basically a translation tool. And you can go in and you can choose the level of difficulty, whether you'd like to look into more advanced translation or basic translation. The only thing I would say with that is if you opt for the immersion feature, just send me a quick email. That's one thing that we're not able to track in our dashboard. So if you are using that, just let me know, because obviously we want to give you guys credit for all the practice that you're doing. So with that, I'm gonna end here for the Duolingo portion, but if anyone has questions, we are gonna start accepting live questions now. So you should see in the bottom left corner of your screen a little thing that says be part of the conversation. So feel free to click that and start typing in questions as they come up. And continue to do that throughout our session. But right now, I'll pass it off to the staff and volunteers in Guatemala, and they're going to give you a lot more information about what you can expect in terms of language learning and training, and maybe some funny stories too. So feel free to ask questions. I'll pass it off to Guatemala now.
Hi, I'm Nicole again. First of all, I'd like to say props to you all for utilizing the Duolingo program. It can only make you more prepared to come to Guatemala. But don't worry, because once you get here, they do have amazing language and cultural facilitators like Chepe who will help you. I just have 2 words of advice for you in regards to learning Spanish. The first is don't be embarrassed or afraid to make mistakes, because that is the only way you will learn. The way that I learned mostly is integrating with my host family, killing chickens, making boots, and I became best friends with the talking parrot, Alfredo, because he never judged me. But honestly, just make mistakes and put yourself out there and your Spanish level will skyrocket. And then the other word of advice I have is once you do know Spanish and you know you've studied for a long time, don't doubt yourself, because it's easy to do that. I just wanted to share a quick funny story with you. When I first got to site, I still was kind of unsure about my Spanish level, and I came home one day to my family telling me that the cow ate my clothes that I had hung up to dry. And I was like, no, they can't be telling me this. This can't be true. So I just shrugged it off and I said, okay, cool, bye. And I got to the clothesline and the cow indeed did eat my clothes. So it would have been a funnier experience to share with my family and laugh along with them if I just, had the confidence to say, I do know Spanish. I do understand what they are saying. So just keep working hard and make mistakes.
Thanks, Nicole. I'm Mayana again, and I again want to say congratulations for being invited to Guatemala. We are so excited for a new group of folks, and I think it's amazing that you're using this app to study Spanish. What's really cool about training that I really liked was, for those of you who are coming in at a higher level, even though you may be using this program and speaking Spanish, the training really helps you learn Guatemalan Spanish. So you're going to learn all of the slang, all of the different words, all of the kind of tiny jokes and the double speak. So it's very awesome. Like Nicole, I just want to say, don't be afraid to make mistakes. I've made plenty with the double speak here in Guatemala. And what's also really cool about language training is there is the opportunity to learn Mayan languages. I was placed in a Mayan language area for my 2 years of service. And I thought it was really cool that I was able to communicate with the locals. So that's also an extra kind of wonderful thing that we get to do here during language training. So congratulations again, and I'm very excited.
Great. So I'm Carolyn Zari. I'm also working the controls. So I'm the training manager. Once you all get here to country, on your second day in country, you're all going to go through and do a basic language test. And so we'll be able to see what language skills you come in with. Here in Peace Corps, we really focus on your oral communication skills. So that's what we're going to be testing. Once we understand where you are with your language development, we're going to group you with other folks from your same project. So whether you be Healthy Schools, Maternal and Child's Health, you can tell these gals are new, or Youth and Development. And then you'll be placed in a small group of anywhere from 3 to 4 trainees, and that will be your language learning class for your first 4 weeks. And you'll be accompanied by one of our fabulous language and cultural facilitators like Chepe. And in just a minute, I'm going to ask Chepe to talk to you a little bit about what a typical day in language class looks like. But our language facilitators have, our newest facilitator has 2 years of experience. We have a few new folks on board, but we have even some facilitators that have upwards of 20 years of experience in language teaching. So you're in good hands. During your classes, you're not only going to learn the Spanish language, but you're also going to learn about culture and how those fit together. And so understand whether you're coming in with a very low level of language or you're coming in as a native speaker. We're going to adapt the course to you, where you are, and to your learning style. And so what we're going to ask from you is just to get all in, because that's the only way that you're going to progress. As Nicole said, you have to make mistakes. lots and lots of mistakes. I was a volunteer here in Guatemala, and I remember so many mistakes that I made. And one of the favorites that my now husband, who I met when I was a volunteer, still will make fun of me for is I got the words for lice, which are piojos, a bread called pirujos, and then basically flirting comments, piropos, all mixed up. So you can imagine how embarrassing that is to be calling different things like that. So now I'm going to ask Chepe to tell you a little bit about a day in Spanish class, and he's actually going to help you all immerse and practice in Spanish.
Okay. La experiencia de tener una clase cada día es buenísima porque estamos compartiendo en la comunidad, en una familia. Tenemos la oportunidad de practicar español por toda la mañana y parte de la tarde. Tenemos diferentes actividades. En la mañana estamos un poquito con gramática, ejercicios, preguntas, y en la tarde hacemos un poquito de actividades para llevar al trainee a tener la experiencia. Entonces, tenemos diversidad de actividades. Un día típico para clases de español es que nos reunimos en la casa de la familia a las 8 de la mañana y estamos allá compartiendo durante todo el día, parte del almuerzo, y después 2 horas por la tarde donde tenemos actividades para ir a conocer museos, visitar familias, tener la experiencia real de compartir con la gente. Los trainees tienen la oportunidad de conocer gente de la comunidad, visitar diferentes, digamos, establecimientos de la comunidad, donde los trainees tienen la oportunidad de interactuar, practicar lo que hemos aprendido durante la mañana y luego ya poder regresar a la familia para seguir compartiendo. Aprenden también a cocinar con su familia. En la clase de español también cocinamos para poder ir conociendo los ingredientes, vocabulario, expresiones, y como dijeron ellas, también un poco de slang, y también ayudarlos, ¿verdad?, con el español, porque a veces la pronunciación es un poquito diferente. Entonces ellos tienen la oportunidad de hacer preguntas directamente. En la noche tienen tareas con la familia, comparten con la familia y hacen preguntas también. Es una inversión total de los trainees con la familia y con la comunidad y con nosotros.
Excellent. So as Rick mentioned, a lot of you are coming in with higher levels of language. For those of you that come in at an advanced level or a superior level, you still will take language classes, but you'll be doing more activities that relate to your technical program and will push you farther in certain aspects of your language development. Especially for our native speakers, to help polish out some of the words that may function in another country, but unfortunately in Guatemala don't function here. So they're all giggling because they know what words they are. For all trainees, you'll be assessed at the beginning of training and at the end of training. And for most of you, if you're not at an advanced level, you'll also have an assessment mid-training. So you do need to achieve what we call an intermediate mid-level. And when you get to country, we'll explain what that is. And we've had all of our past 5 groups, every trainee has met that level coming into country. So you can all do it, but you have to just put in your heart and your effort. And we're here to support you in that journey to get to that language level. So that's just a little bit about our program. And I don't know if we want to open it up to questions and answers, Brooke.
Sure. So as a reminder, thank you guys, first of all, but as a reminder, you guys who are viewing, feel free to click in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen and submit a question. You can just type that right in and we'll answer them. We do have one question to kick it off. So how does a trainee's language level impact their site placement?
For the most part, we consider all trainees able to get up to their language level. In some cases, when we know that there is a community that has a lot of indigenous language required, we may look at placing a trainee that has an advanced or higher level near the end of training to ensure that they feel very solid with their language and then are able to start learning the Mayan language. For all of our projects, Mayan language is not required, but it helps facilitate daily life, and in some cases it helps volunteers facilitate their work through translators. But language is one component of the many parts of who you are as a trainee and the skill set that you bring. Nicole and Matt, I don't know if you want to say how you all felt that was taken into account during your site placement.
Sure. In my site, Spanish is widely spoken. About 85% of the community speak a Mayan language, but for the most part, it didn't really inhibit my work. I had a translator when necessary, but I did want to learn the Mayan language, which was Kaqchikel. So I took about 24 hours of class, and it's really just a way to integrate more into the community and speak to the women at the market and introduce myself to parents groups, just have them have a little bit more of confianza or trust with me. But it's really fun, and it's a great way to get to know the culture of Guatemala. But in my particular case, I did not find that not being fluent in the Mayan language hindered my learning or my work whatsoever.
I would agree with Nicole as well. I was placed in a community in which 98% of the population speaks Quiche as a first language, but as Nicole already mentioned, having translators there, they were easy to find because I lived about 30 minutes outside of a larger city, so I could talk to people to help translate. And I did also take Mayan language classes for 6 months, so I was able to communicate at a basic level, and I feel that that's very important, especially for host family situations. My host family, the majority of them spoke Quiche as a first language, so just integration. But as Carolyn said, language is just one part of the whole volunteer, and when you get here, you'll understand a little bit more about what that means.
Thank you, guys. So we have another question related to, do you provide lessons in Indigenous language as part of pre-service training, or is that generally something that, you know, both of you guys mentioned you kind of practice after you were already at site?
So I'll start off and then they can talk a little bit more about their experience. We do not teach Indigenous language as a primary language during training. The reason for that is that we actually assign your site in week 8. So some countries will assign your site the first day you get there, but we like to do that after we've gotten to know you for about 8 weeks in country. So we can take all the factors of who you are, how you're working, everything we know about the work partners into account. Because of that, because we have more than 4 Indigenous languages that we work in, Ixil, Mam, Quiche, Kaqchikel, and then a peppering of a few other smaller languages, we're not able to give you that language training at the beginning. What we do is what we call Mayan Language Day. So it's 8 hours of orientation to your specific language. And then we have 2 staff members that are specialists in Mayan languages. One speaks Kaqchikel and the other speaks Quiche. So all volunteers, once they start in, are expected to take 20 hours of Indigenous language with a local tutor once they arrive at site. We do have a few sites that there is no Mayan language spoken, but the majority of our sites, there's at least some Mayan language spoken. And so you'll be helped to connect with someone in your community that can help you learn. Do you guys want to say anything about?
Yeah, that pretty much covers it. I remember way back when I did my training 2 years ago, the advanced speakers actually got to do a week of Mayan language classes, but I think that's changed now just because of logistics. But I would, if you are interested, I would just say when you get here, just talk to the folks that do have experience with Mayan languages, talk to the specialists. Nothing's stopping you from learning Spanish, getting your Spanish level, and also expressing your interest in Mayan languages, because more often than not, that's where you're going to be placed. You might not know where, but it's just really good to get that foundation and to express interest.
I did not start learning a Mayan language until I went to site and found a teacher, but the Peace Corps also offers language classes throughout your service, whether it be in Spanish or a Mayan language, in order to better your Spanish. So each year I take a week of Spanish classes just to help myself get better and practice some topics that are a little bit hard for me. And last year, because I was lucky enough to speak Kaqchikel in my community, I had a few days of language training with a language and cultural facilitator here at the office in Kaqchikel. So there are options for you to study language throughout training, just maybe not on day 1.
Great, thank you guys for that answer. So, next question. We have an invitee who's curious about the various language levels of this particular class. Particularly, she's curious, like, how many invitees are already fluent Spanish speakers as compared to the group?
So the class is currently 41 trainees. And the last time I counted, there were 8 or 9 self-identified native speakers. The rest of the speakers have been with at least a few semesters of college Spanish. Their exact language level, we will know the second day of your time in country.
Okay, we have another question here. So you're alluding to, Carolyn, the language exam when they arrive. What are some other resources or other recommendations that you might have, apart from like using Duolingo, but like what are some other good ways that invitees can practice for that language exam? I think it's all oral, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Sí, otras oportunidades para estudiar español es leyendo libros, viendo la televisión con la familia, yendo al parque de la comunidad para hacer nuevos amigos. La ventaja en Guatemala es que la gente es muy amable y si una sonrisa y un hola o buenos días, los trainees tienen la oportunidad de conectar amigos. Yo he tenido la experiencia de tener trainees que son muy amables, van al parque, van a la calle o los amigos de la familia y su nivel de español sube, porque la oportunidad para trainees cuando ellos son muy, digamos, muy abiertos a la cultura, muy adaptados, eso ayuda mucho a que el trainee pueda ampliar más su español. La gente es, como yo dije, es muy amable y le gusta hablar con extranjeros. Entonces, las comunidades que tenemos para los trainees, ellos conocen mucho de la cultura norteamericana acerca de Cuerpo de Paz y siempre están disponibles para hablar con extranjeros. Entonces, una buena oportunidad es conectar con la gente, hacer amigos y preguntar siempre a la familia quiénes son sus buenos amigos también.
In pre-arrival, just like Chame mentioned, it's really just exposing yourself to the language. The language proficiency interview is not an interview you can quote unquote study for. You can't cheat the exam because what they're going to do is push you to the point where your ability in the language begins to fall apart, to see where you top out basically. And that's what we really need to know to place you in a language group. So continue to prepare yourself as much as you can, but know that once you arrive here, we're going to assess where you are and then help you get to where you need to be in service.
And I think that doing Duolingo helps a lot, but for me, in my personal experience, practice speaking, because doing things online or doing homework or tareas can help you, but if you don't speak and get used to hearing yourself and pronouncing the words, you're not going to get better in that sense. So go to a Mexican restaurant and order in Spanish from the waiter, or just like Chepe said, watch TV and just get used to hearing it and speaking it instead of only viewing it on a page.
Great, thank you guys. So we have time for one more question. And so we have an invitee. His question is, so he learned to speak Spanish living in Guatemala, but can't write at all, in his own words. Will this impact his classes or his first placement exam? Perhaps other invitees can relate to this, where maybe they actually have stronger conversational skills or oral skills than writing skills. How will this impact them once they get to country?
A language proficiency interview only assesses oral proficiency. So if you have high oral proficiency, but you're not skilled in writing, that's fine. We will be assessing how you're able to communicate verbally because most of your work will be done that way. Then from there, if you need additional assistance, perhaps you're an advanced speaker orally, but you need assistance with writing, your language facilitator would provide you with assistance to develop those skills apart. But you would still make the language level as for what we test you on.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. I think we'll prepare to close out here. And Carolyn, I know that you wanted to allude to when invitees can expect to hear from their desk officer next, maybe give some next steps, feel free to go ahead and do that.
Great, so thank you all so much for joining the Google Hangout today. In the next month, or the next week or so, you're going to be receiving an email from Kimberly Helm, the desk officer. We're going to be setting up some additional calls with myself, another volunteer, and a few other staff members to talk about the training program and some of the unique aspects of Peace Corps Guatemala that we want to make sure you understand before coming to country. So please be on the lookout for those. We want all all invitees to participate in those calls. And you'll be receiving some additional messaging in the coming weeks. Also, if you're interested in being paired with a pre-arrival mentor, a currently serving volunteer, who you can communicate with via phone or Facebook or email, however you want. So there'll be a survey going out for that as well. So stay tuned. In the next week or week and a half, you'll be getting an email from Kimberly.
Great. Again, thank you so much for everyone who tuned in live, who asked your questions. This has been an awesome session. And thank you to you guys in Guatemala for joining us. I know I speak for everyone when I say it's a really cool opportunity to get to see you guys, put a face to the name, and I'm sure everyone's really looking forward to meeting you guys. So thank you so much to everyone for joining us.
See you in Guatemala.